What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Chop Won't Stop podcast, episode 27 of Braves podcast for Braves fans. Once again, it's your boy Jimbo and Nicholas down there in Dothan, Alabama. So welcome. And speaking of one of the good ones, Nick, let's talk about one of the good ones that you had this week. For people who do not follow Nick on social media or us on social media, Nick actually had probably a lifetime experience that any of us would want to wish upon ourselves or even for our friends. So, Nick, why don't you kind of, enlighten our listeners over what you were able to do the last week?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a sports reporter in Alabama, and actually a guy that went to high school in our viewing area, plays for the Cardinals. And so I was able to go up to Atlanta this week as he played the Cardinals and was able to cover him a little bit and enjoy some Braves baseball up in the press box with all the other media that follow either team. It was, like you said, a once in a lifetime experience. I was in the Cardinals locker room, saw the likes of Albert Pujols, Adam Wainwright, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, just guys are going to be Hall of Famers and then that are on their way to being Hall of Famers. And even though it wasn't the Braves, I mean, if you're in front of a guy like Albert Pujols, I mean, that's just something that you're going to be awestruck over. I mean, the guy's he's the active leader in home runs right now with over 600, almost to 700. It was pretty cool. And then another thing too was, I think on Tuesday I was in the locker room and somebody comes up and gives Nolan Arenado a ball. And I was thinking I knew what it was, and come to find out it was his cycle ball that he hit against the Phillies on Friday. So that was pretty cool too. But just overall a cool experience, and hopefully just the beginning of my career in baseball.
Yeah, and you guys should have been in Nick's pocket whenever he was FaceTiming me and he was trying to report on the field. Many bleeps and 3-2-1s, and then this smart genius of a guy who, as you can tell, is on his way of making it to the big leagues of reporting, left his SD card up in the media suites and literally had to sprint all the way back up and back down so he wouldn't get his camera confiscated. To me, that sounds like, I wouldn't even say that's a rookie mistake. That is below that's like, I don't even want to say low A because that's embarrassing to them. Oh, wow. But Nick, I'm happy for you. I know whenever Nick and I first started this journey, doing our podcast a couple of years ago, it was just more to benefit him. And so really pumped to see him kind of be able to, get a little teaser of that, if you will. So buddy, I'm happy for you. Proud of you. Hopefully it's just the start to many more.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Enough with the sappy crap. Let's get on with it. With the lay of the land. So good, bad, and ugly. So we'll be sappy with that at first, then we'll kind of, obviously complain and moan about what's going on. Actually, before that, Nick, before good, bad, and ugly, let's talk about the upcoming series, and then from there we'll kind of talk about it, because I think, to me, obviously this week we have the Mets and the Nats. To me, Nats don't matter. It's the Mets. In my eyes, this is literally the NLCS of the first half before the All-Star break. Because I think whoever wins this series, literally, Braves win it, they have the lead. Mets win it, they extend their lead. So, let's just hop into that and kind of talk about some things. I know you usually have a lot of the pitching matchups, and then from there, kind of who's riding momentum going in, et cetera. So, Nick, I'll go ahead and flip it over to you for the Mets series.
Yeah. So the Braves, you couldn't line it up better for us. For this series against the Mets, we got Max Fried going up against Max Scherzer. So battle of the Maxes. And I like our corner, really. I mean, Scherzer has made one outing since his rehab appearance, and it was against the Reds. So I wouldn't really call that. I mean, that could have been a rehab assignment, in my opinion. And they ended up losing the game too, because, the Mets couldn't score a freaking run. And, Max Fried's just been dominant his past, I think, 10 starts or whatever it is. I mean, like, the Braves have won every single one of his past 10 or 11 starts. So I like our odds in that one to take game one. And then, Spencer Strider, electric on Thursday night, 9 Ks for his first 9 outs, was absolutely unhittable almost all night. So I like our odds in game two, him going up against Dustin Peterson, who I think got a little, got a little roughed up in his last start. I think gave up 3 or 4 runs to the Reds in his last outing. And then Charlie Morton going up against Trevor Williams. So honestly, like if we win game one, I'm feeling confident of a sweep against the Mets. I mean, this is bottom of the barrel for their starting rotation with Dustin Peterson and Trevor Williams. So as long as we can get past Max Scherzer, which I feel that we can. I mean, our everything I feel like is working for us right now. I think we have a good shot. I know you said earlier whoever wins the series is going to be in first place, but we have to sweep in order to take first place over. We'll have a game and a half lead, whereas if we take 2 out of 3, we'll still be down half a game. And I like our odds going 4 games against the Nats to, if we take 2 out of 3 from the Mets, that we will have first place by the end of the week. Especially with what we're going up against the Nats. You know, we just saw them. Kyle Wright going up against Eric Fetty. He did not have a good outing against us earlier this week or Friday night, whenever it was. I mean, we teed off on him, and Kyle Wright's just been throwing the ball so well. Something we'll talk about a little bit later is, you know, an all-star snub, in my opinion. I know that we can only have so many players, but he was another deserving one. And then Ian Anderson and Patrick Corbin. Corbin had a really good outing. He's had a couple back-to-back good outings. So I'm a little concerned about that one, but, you know, Ian Anderson's pitched really well his past 2 outings. So we'll see how that goes. And then Max Fried going again. And then Spencer Strider going up against Josiah Gray is what I'm expecting to happen to close out the first half of the season.
Yeah, and kind of talk on the Mets series. I know you're talking about if we take game 1, we could probably sweep. But to me, Max Scherzer's not this big scary guy everybody makes him out to be. Yeah, I get it. You know, if you're the AL and you never really see him, then he could be scary even after going through the rehab assignment and coming back up. But we've been seeing him his entire career, you know, for the most part, since he's been with the Nationals and then the Dodgers. It's nothing new. Everybody knows what he has. I guarantee you with what are you going to say?
You say it's nothing new, but we have a pretty different roster compared to what most people have seen. You got to think at the trade deadline, he went to the Dodgers. So aside from postseason Eddie Rosario, he hasn't seen him like maybe Dansby or Austin Riley have. And aside from those two, it's really Acuna. So Acuna, a little bit of Marcel, Austin Riley, and Dansby Swanson are really the only ones that have seen him. And
yeah, but players talk. The same coaches have been in place for a while too. You know, it's different, you know, based off notes to reality, but it's still not something where it's like whenever the Braves face Shohei in late July, that's going to be a whole new ball game. You know, that's totally different in my opinion. So to me, it's not as daunting or scary because, you know, there's role models, there's stats, there's knowledge, whatever. So to me, I'm not too worried about it. Especially you just never know for sure what's going to happen. And then with Max, name a big game he hasn't stepped up in. And I'm sure he's going to treat this like game 6 of the World Series come tonight, if you're listening to this on Monday as we release it. So, you know, I'm not too worried about it. And then obviously Spencer Strider's just been, I wouldn't even say unreal or not fair because that's still putting it lightly. Dude is like, you literally just maxed him out at 99. You're letting him run free, in my opinion. And then obviously, you know, with Charlie Morton, he's starting to get his crap together. His curveball slider mix is looking sharp, and he's going 100 plus pitches again. So to me, you know, I'm pretty pumped. The Mets offense hasn't been there. Pete Alonso's been getting hot lately. From what I've seen, he went like 4 for 4 the other day, 2 for 4. So he's catching it. But, you know, like Juan Soto killed us this past series, but there was really nobody on base in front of him. So, you know, what difference does it matter if our offense is on? Which is most important thing because our offense can be hot and cold too. So I think after them leaving a lot of base runners on in the game 2 and 3 of the National Series, I think it's kind of where they step up. But then for the rest of the week, I'm not really too focused on it just because it is the Nats. But I think if we sweep them or even take 2 out of 3, obviously the Mets are going to be aggressive after the All-Star break with the trade deadline. And I trust Anthopoulos, especially after last year. You know, to me, he could literally, I don't even know, he could tell me to go screw myself and I would still thank him and trust him. but I would think he would try to either match, if not one up the Mets, because obviously he's had a taste of a world championship, and I think he's only going to run from it. So for me, that's my opinion on this upcoming week. Guys, to look for Austin Riley to stay hot in key moments. I don't think he's going to be popping off at a 400 to 500 clip again this week, but I think he'll come up the big hits. I see Matt Olson kind of stepping up this week too in terms of the Mets series, because he's kind of, on the top of that roster. Outside of Ronnie's one big game, he's kind of the one that he's every other week he's on. So I think this is kind of his week where he's going to be on.
Yeah, and Ronald's also that kind of person that steps up in big series. He seems to be more focused when it comes to stuff like that. So it should be interesting to see how he does and things like that. And I think it's his first series back to face the Mets, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he made it back in time for that series against the Rangers. He missed it by just 1 or 2 days. So, he's going to be amped to have a chance to take first place. So it should be a series that maybe he goes into the All-Star break hot. But speaking of, just us getting heated up for this Mets series and, going into the All-Star break, we'll kind of talk about our good, bad, and ugly. Jimmy, if you want to lead off with yours.
Yeah, so my good, bad, and ugly, I always go off the past 7 games for the past, which I think there was exactly 7 games this time because the Braves are playing 19 in a row.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Austin Riley. Other than the fact he is very hot, he is a beautiful man. No secret there. Dude literally was hitting at a 448 clip with 3 homers, 8 RBIs. His OPS is a 1346, which is absolutely crazy. And his slugging was off the charts at 862. So to me, we saw it today. Very timely home run to tie the ball game. Hits almost an identical walk-off hit as game 1 of the NLCS. Literally pulled it right down the left field line. And so to me, that's my good. My bad, I'm probably going to have to say some of, snitch choice of using Will Smith. Will Smith is, to me, not a guy that anymore, especially for 13 mil. I don't know what kind of blackmail that Will Smith has on Snit. I don't know if he's got some pictures or what, but it's Snit's bringing in Will Smith at 1-run games or somebody on base. It's aside from the hero moment of the playoffs where he went 17 scoreless innings, 18 whatever, it's not the same during the regular season. He's more of a liability. He's your 5th inning, 6th inning guy. I hate to say it, but I wouldn't care if he used the Sean Newcomb role because any of our other pitchers really are the ones that can step up where we need it to. So that's my bad. I'd say my ugly is just, at least the past couple games, the runners in the scoring position, even with some of the Cardinals games, it was just atrocious. It's, I feel like we're better off in extra innings. We don't put a guy at second because I feel like we're going to do better hitting in terms of scoring that 1 run. So to me, that's like, I don't know the numbers, but I know today up until Sunday, as we record this, during the 12-inning game, I was stuck listening to the Nationals broadcast being out here in North Carolina. And they said that I think the Braves were 3 for 15 going into the 12th inning with runners in scoring position. And that's not good. Literally, you should not be batting 200 with runners in scoring position. So to me, that's my GBU. Nick, over to you.
Yeah, my good, obviously. Last week it was a starting rotation. This week it's the pitching staff as a whole. Let me read off some statistics for you. We gave up 15 runs this week over 7 games. 68 innings pitched. That equals out to a little under a 1.99 ERA. That's fantastic. That's more than you can ask for, honestly, in my opinion. Like, that in itself almost gets you a 7-0 week. Not quite, and we'll get to that in a quick second. So that was my good. The starting rotation, really all facets, every single start was, I think, almost a quality start. Ian went 2 5-inning games, and then Kyle Wright would have gone further in his Monday night game against St. Louis had there not been a rain delay. But you get what I'm saying. The starting rotation was on, and the bullpen did their job when they had to come in for the most part. They're probably a little bit of the reason why the ERA isn't lower than a 1.99 right now. But, just great play from them, really keeping us where we need to be to add on runs or come back, whether what position we were in. But bad, I'll add on to your ugly, was just runners in scoring position. You mentioned today's game, 3 for 15. That St. Louis game where we went to 11 innings, we were 1 for 15 that day. And, Spencer Strider really had a really great performance for us to lose that game like we did. We had plenty of chances to extend the lead for Spencer Strider and really lock down his next win, but we couldn't do it. I don't know why we couldn't do it, but we had plenty of chances, obviously, and just couldn't cash them in. And my ugly has been not only our extra play innings this week, but all year. We have not been good in extra innings. We lost the Dodgers in a heartbreaker in extra innings. We lost earlier this week to the Cardinals, and then today for it to take us the 12th inning to score 1 run over that 3-inning span with a runner starting on second, I don't get how that happens. I think our bullpen came in and gave us 3 shutout frames, and we could not scratch a run across against the Nationals. That it was really aggravating to see that. I could see a good team like the Dodgers, maybe us going back and forth and losing, but when we're playing the team like the Nationals, first of all, we shouldn't even be going into extra innings. It was just frustrating to watch, and that's really been the ugly for me. Everybody's saying I hate this Rob Manfred rule. Well, we both get the same opportunity to score that runner from second base, and we can't do it. If we don't like the Rob Manfred rule, maybe we should win the first 9 innings and not have to worry about going in extra innings. So we can complain about this free base runner on second base all we want, but at the end of the day, we have the same opportunities that everybody else has to scratch run across. And we should be able to scratch more than 1 run across when we've got a runner on second base with the kind of offense we have. So that's what I'm going to leave it at right there for my ugly, is just our playing extra innings.
Nick, question for you. What would you have said in April whenever I told you at the All-Star break, Colorado was going to be a 10-win or it was going to be a 10-game winner and 100-plus strikeouts at the All-Star break? Arguably should be at 11.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't believe you, but if I would have watched that first game against the Reds and then saw his second game, I probably would have started believing you, but he has really come into his own this season. Far more than what he was in 2020. He was good through some parts of 2020 and really showed what he could be. But I did not expect him to be the wins leader and then, really challenging Max Fried for that ace status on the staff. Obviously, Max Fried is by far better, but he's giving him a run for his money right now.
Yeah, it's incredible, but I'm kind of going with that to player of the week. Mine isn't Kyle Wright, but Nick, I'll let you say yours first, and then obviously mine probably won't be a surprise.
Obviously, Ian Anderson had a rough outing against Philadelphia on, I think, Thursday last week. Gave up 7 runs over 2 innings pitched. I think he was my ugly last week. And so for him to do the 2 outings he had this week against St. Louis and Washington, it's a step in the right direction and a big improvement. He kept these teams in it to win the ball games on what was it, Tuesday and today. So just a huge step in the right direction for him. He's got 1 more outing against the Nationals next week. I'd like to see him go deeper than 5 1/3 innings next week, maybe give us 6, somewhere around there, pitch into the 7th, hopefully. But just his stat line over this week was, 10 1/3 innings. He gave up 3 runs. Could have given up just 1 run, but Dylan Lee surrendered that 3-run home run, and those 2 runners on were his. So that's where those 3 runs come from. Gave up 1 to the Cardinals and then 2 today. He had 8 Ks. You'd think that he might have a little more Ks and then 5 walks. I don't know what it is with our pitching staff and walks, but they sure love to get free passes. And that's what's come back to bite him. I had 2 of those walks today cost him, the win. But over his 2 games, 5 innings against St. Louis, 8 hits, 1 run, 3 strikeouts and a walk. So that was a great performance. He really worked in and out of trouble through those 5 innings. So did a great job there. And then today, 5 1/3 against Washington, 2 hits, 2 runs. And like I said, those 2 runs came off 2 walks in the 6th inning. And those strikeouts were a little up from St. Louis, his start in St. Louis. But if he can control the walks and, get a little more control, I think that he'll definitely be in a step in the right direction. And he's got the chance to build even more momentum against the Nationals again this week, going into the All-Star break.
Yeah, anybody who follows us, if you've been paying attention to our GBU or Good, Bad, and Ugly, if you notice anytime we talk bad about somebody during ugly, they somehow flip it around. So look for the Braves to go 15 for 15 this entire upcoming week with runners in scoring position. So that is my hope. But for sure, my player of the week, I already talked about my good is old thick country, the beautiful man, Austin Riley. Literally, while I was watching the Nationals broadcast, they showed us stat other than hyping up Juan Soto, who probably won't be there at the end of this year, that literally in the 4-hole, Austin Riley is like up there with Barry Bonds, King Griffey Jr., like David Orton. Name any big power player in his OPS in the 4-hole with a minimum of 50 ABs, not plate appearances. ABs is like, it's crazy the kind of players he's up there with. Mickey Mantle, etc. So it's really cool just kind of seeing that and seeing where he's comfortable. So to me, that's just my player of the week. He came up in big situations too, on top of hitting his 448.
Yeah, he was very impressive. I have Austin Riley on my fantasy team, and he's done well for us on my fantasy team, especially. I think he was my leading scorer this week, numbers wise. So I definitely appreciate. I still lost, but I appreciated his contribution to my fantasy score this week. And then I know we want to. I know we usually give our hot take, but I want to change it a little bit. We have the All-Star selections came out today. We had 5 All-Stars named to the roster. A lot of people are like Austin Riley was snubbed, but he plays a very tough position. When you've got Nolan Arenado and Manny Machado in the same league as you, it's a tough battle. I'd love to see him as a reserve. I know that they've been listed, but they have a few drops and ads throughout the week, so we'll see if he sneaks in there for his first All-Star selection. He's definitely deserving of it, especially the tear he's been on lately. But Max Fried, obviously very deserving of it. Dansby, very deserving of it. A lot of people are kind of confused with the William Contreras. He was the second highest vote getter with Bryce Harper out with an injury, he takes over that role. So that's why William Contreras has gotten this nod. And then I'm missing somebody. I think Travis d'Arnaud is in as well. And he was also the second highest vote getter at catcher. So that's why he's also in as well. So there's not a surprise of why the people who are in are in. I know obviously everybody wants Austin Riley in with his performance, but he's got a tough challenge with the people he has to compete with at third base in the National League.
Yeah. And plus, I think just keeps a chip on his shoulder and doesn't get him overthinking. And, kind of look at it last year. He didn't get, much love either with the All-Star game. And he went out hitting 33 home runs, batting over 300 with 100 RBIs, and still got kind of dissed at the MVP conversation as well. So to me, I'm sure it stinks, but to him, he probably doesn't really care about. Sure, he can probably go out and hunt or just being a dad. He's going to use that time pretty wisely. But no, for the Contreras stuff, that's cool because it's been since 2003. Brothers have been in the All-Star game together. And then if he starts at DH, which I don't know if, Snit's going to put Pujols in there at the DH spot or if it's going to be Contreras, since technically that was what he was being voted in for rather than the legacy picked by Manfred. But first time since like the 1980s that two brothers have started on the same NL team. So to me, that's kind of what I wanted. That's why whenever I was voting, as much as I love Darnie, I was voting for Wilson Contreras at catcher and then Willie at DH, just because, you can see how emotional they were just playing against each other. Now imagine how emotional they're going to be playing together, which hopefully, Willie doesn't get an idea about that, but Wilson, if he gets the idea and somehow we can find a spot for him in a Braves jersey, sure. But I think it's really cool. Max Fried, obviously very deserving of it. Dansby he's really surprised me because considering that probably 3/4 of his strikeouts right now came within the first like month and a half. which the Nationals broadcast like, well, he's almost 100 strikeouts. Well, obviously didn't pay attention because he's not striking out nearly at the clip he was. And then obviously Ronnie and Darney. I'm glad Darney's getting it. Darney has been probably the most underrated catcher up until this year when he's finally getting some love. So I'm pretty pumped. And obviously Colorado being snubbed sucks. But I mean, on the flip side too, Freddie did not make the All-Star game, which is very interesting. You figure it out in LA country who've gotten a lot of love or former Braves players, but I think with, Casey Close kind of, pulling the strings of Freddie, it really hurt him in terms of fan popularity because that's what the whole finalists and the starters was all about. But I'd probably say the last thing we need to close on, this actually happened a couple hours before we started recording, is us more or less pretty much buying out the contract of Robinson Cano. Nick texted me and said interesting, which to me, I saw somebody even tweet about this or put it on a Facebook group. It's almost like a Ryan Howard type thing. Put him in the minor league, see if he's doing good, call him up before the September call-ups. In August, we need extra depth for, Goose or somebody. And, if he pops off every once in a while, the Braves have seen great postseason magic. So, to me, it's a low-risk thing. He's not on the 40 man right now. If I'm not mistaken, he's there on a minor league deal. So to me, it's literally just like, I wouldn't even say it's a low risk. It's just a normal minor league guy. And if he starts playing well, call him up for a game or two, see what happens.
Well, the Robinson Cano thing, I was looking a little bit into it. He's done well at AAA for San Diego. And I think we did that because of the play of Phil Gosselin and Orlando Arcia the past couple games. Gosselin kind of that base running blunder against the Cardinals. And I think he had another play where it was just in the field. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, Cano come up and take over Gosselin's role and really platoon with Arcia until Ozzie comes back. Because let's not forget, Cano, I think, is left-handed. So it gives them a better chance to platoon more at second base and get the matchup they want. And he's got a little pop in his bat. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for them to maybe call up Cano and put him on the big league roster and kind of add some depth to that bench. Because, Gosselin, I don't see going deep at any point when he comes up to bat. And, Cano has that power. Roids are not to go deep. So we'll see how that ends up.
And that chop house for a left-handed hitter is your friend. We'll go ahead and let you guys off this episode. So, obviously we're hoping for good vibes, a lot of base hits, most importantly with runners in scoring position this week against the Mets. We hope to be coming back to you next week for the All-Star episode with a series lead. We're feeling good. And then kind of from there, how are we going to be strategizing in terms of the trade deadline, diving into that a little bit more next week. 2, Nick and I are going to be talking about our midseason awards and then talking about who do we think earned certain accolades in our opinion. So we look forward to seeing you then. We hope you have a fantastic week and always chop on.